Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. As we started this chapter in the previous lecture, we were talking about managing in global environment, and we have discussed different dynamics of global environment, and we also discussed like why managing in a global environment can be a challenge, and how it produces opportunity for the businesses. And we understand the procahalism, like how we view and how like some perspective in which you consider that the values and attitudes of our is better than the other countries. We talked about ethnocentric attitude, polycentric attitude, geocentric attitude, and we also talked about World Trade Organization and different multinational like operations, different options for different types of international organizations. Okay, so we were to start this one. If we just try to see like if a business wants to go internationally, then they've got like two different kinds of options, from the minimum global investments to medium global investment option, and then to the significant global investment option. Okay, the most economical way of going global, if you want to take your business to international markets, one of the way can be global sourcing. And because of these Alibaba, Amazon, you can see many businesses, they are literally in drop shipping, and they can procure something from one country uh, and they just can make an online website and their brand, and they just source it from China, and they can directly deliver it to international customers. So global sourcing can be in one of the option. We know in Amazon FBA, that's a great option. Amazon FBA, they call it Amazon fulfillment. So what you can do is you can source globally. You make an order, say in China, and you pay for this, and it will go right direct into Amazon's warehouses. It will become live, so your product is going to be live. So if you use the proper marketing, use your own website, or you use the Amazon search engine commands, your product is going to appear on the top, and the customers are going to purchase, and you'll get your margin. So Amazon is going to handle all these things for you, handling the inventory, collecting the cash on your behalf. So global sourcing is the least investment kind of international setup. Import and export, licensing and franchising is in the middle. In like when you are involved in import and exports, uh, because you are physically sending the inventory by yourself, or you are procurement it from a different country. Normally, what we used to do was we were opening LCs, LC with the bank. We call it a letter of credit. Okay, because you cannot trust the other party that is involved in the other country. So what you can do is you go to your bank. Imagine you are purchasing something from an international buyer. Let's say you are an importer and he is an exporter. So how would he trust you? Like you will pay the consignment if you receive the consignment. So he will deliver you the goods, but they need a guarantee. So they have their bank and you have your bank. So you go to your bank and ask them to open a letter of credit in your favor. So when I'll get these particular goods, I will pay. So you deposit this in your bank, and your bank confirms it to the exporters bank, and then the exporter sends the consignment. If the consignment reaches over here, the bank checks the documents, and your payment is transferred to the bank too for the export. So importing is a bit capital intensive. Similarly, licensing and franchising is also your investments. We know that different businesses, for that you need to get licensing. For example, if you're gonna open a schools or colleges or universities branches, you might need licensing. Franchising it, we have seen in McDonald's, KFC's, they open their franchises. So franchising is also a bit uh, costly business. But if you move on to the highest investment options, again, you can go for the strategic alliances. One of the strategic alliances that we will discuss is the joint venture, or you can open your own foreign subsidiary. And all these options are available to us depending upon our business objectives. And again, if you're talking from the expensive perspective, cost perspective, we'll have to look our pocket and then we will decide which option we should go for. So let's see what is strategic alliance and what is foreign subsidiary. Okay, a strategic alliance is basically uh, it's a partnership between an organization and a foreign company in which both share resources and knowledge in developing new products or building new ventures. And the joint venture is also a part of a strategic alliance. But this is a special kind of arrangement. The only difference between a joint venture and general strategic alliance is that in joint venture, what you do is in this partnership, you make a separate independent organization for some common business purposes. So you can make a brand or product and you market it separately. Okay, so strategic alliance, we can take an example of, say, Starbucks and Spotify. So Starbucks and Spotify, what they did, they entered into a partnership in 2015 to create a music ecosystem for Starbucks. So Spotify became the official music player partner. It integrates its services into Starbucks loyalty programs. Similarly, we have another example. We can talk about Honda and LG. They joint venture in 2022 to produce a lithium-ion EV batteries for Honda electric vehicles. Okay, when we talk about, these are the general strategic lines we were talking about. But if we talk about a separate independent identity that two companies they might have made, so we have a very famous example of Sony and Ericsson. So we know Sony Ericsson is a new formation of a business, and they both joined their hands together. They combine. Sony Ericsson combined Sony's consumer electronics expertise and Ericsson with its telecommunication technologies. Let's see if I can type it here. No, I can type here. Okay. Well, let me give you an idea from here. Let's type here. Sony Ericsson is an option. Then we have another example is from say Starbucks and PepsiCo. They created a North American coffee partnership to produce to distribute Starbucks branded ready-to-drink coffee beverages in grocery stores and other market shares. So we can also put that, and or we can take an example of the BMW and Toyota. They cooperation they develop including hydrogen fuel cells and lightweight materials. Okay, so we can, let me put it here. Gosh, it's gonna help me. No. And another options we can have Uber and Volvo. They partnered to develop a self-driving car technology. Microsoft and General Electric, they also collaborated. Boeing and Lockheed Martin, they also collaborated. Okay, so these are some of the examples of joint ventures. Okay, foreign subsidiary is like, as we know, this is the option very much familiar with most of us. This is a direct investment in a foreign country by setting up a separate and independent production facility or offices. So obviously this one is highly intensive, capital intensive. You'll have to put all, and there's a highly risky, and again, it's a highly rewarding as well because you'll be getting the maximum benefits when you'll be opening your own whole subsidiary. Okay, so when we are going for, especially this, the last option, foreign subsidiary, uh, because we higher the risk and higher the return, and we have to be looking for very closely about the global environment. What is the legal environment of the country in which we are going to do the business? What is the stability or instability of the legal or political system? We have a legal procedures are established and followed? Sometimes the legal procedures are outdated, and how effectively they've been followed. Like in case there is a conflict between you are an importer and they are exporter, and something goes wrong, so how would you be able to get the compensation? And then their political system, like how fair and honest they hold their elections, how regularly you see the elections are being conducted. In many countries, you don't see the elections happening on a regular interval. Like normally, it happens after 5 years, but the political condition is not stable, so the elections do not go for 5 years. Sometimes the governments are broken down within 5 years. So that also tells us like there would not be a consistency of a political system. One government might uh, put some facilities for foreign businesses, another government will come and they might take away, and they might call it like nonsense kind of provisions. We also have to look about the differences in the laws of various nations and their effect on the business activities, and they also affect on the delivery of the product and services. So different countries, they have different laws. I was sharing with the class that there's a Kellogg. If you are familiar with the Kellogg, let me get some picture of the Kellogg. If you Kellogg, you must be familiar with the Kellogg, yes. So Kellogg's cereal advertisement was banned in like more than 20 different countries because of the advertisement. In one country it was banned because they were showing the children's, another country it was banned because they were not mentioning the ingredients, in another country it was banned because they were saying we are the best in the market. So what we are trying to establish over here is that different countries, they have different legal systems. As like Europeans have their own, in European markets, you must have to have a particular kind of packaging. You must have to have those requirements fulfilled on the packaging, regardless the product itself. Okay, economic system plays a very important role, and then we have to understand the countries based on like, are they in a free market economy or planned economy? A free market economy is an economy in which resources are primarily owned by and controlled by the private sector. So the government does not own these resources, and the private businessmen, they think and decide like what businesses they should start. And As compared to that, a planned economy is an economy in which economic decisions are planned by the central government. So there is like both pros and cons for those private and planned economy. So in a private or a free economy, for example, you are a farmer and you think like I should be growing coffee because there is a huge demand for the coffee in the international market. So you will grow coffee and you will get great profits. But this is good for the individuals, businesses. Okay, for the planned economy, on the contrary, the government will think like we need wheat in our country and we have to import wheat from other countries, and this is very expensive, and many of our countrymen they cannot afford it, so they will instruct the farmer just to grow the wheat, and you should not grow the coffee. So just to grow the wheat, and you should not grow the coffee. So in the planned economy can be good for the general consumers, but it may not be good for the businessmen. So that's why you will see in the free economy, many people or the businesses they are become multi-billionaire, while other people are being below on the poverty line. So this economy is good for the individual businesses, and planned economy is good for the general consumers. Okay, so I was watching a podcast. I don't know if the data was correct or not. They were talking about Elon Musk's wealth, and the lady says that if he spends $1 million on every day, and he would need like 1,000, 3,000 something years to complete, utilize his wealth. So that tells you the story, like how the riches are becoming richer in the free economy. And but on the other hand, if you go in the planned economy, you will not see the motivation of the producer. He will not. Why he would be motivated to go and develop the wheat? So yes, this is good for the general public, but it's not for the businessman. So there are like pros and cons in both the economic system. But as a business that wants to go to international market, you should keep these things in your mind. If that's a free economy, so you'll get like maximum benefits. But if it's a planned economy, you will have many restrictions and you'll have to abide by those laws. Monetary and financial factors like currency exchange rates, they plays a very important role. We know like Chinese currency is very little as compared to the dollar. So when Chinese were exporting to America, it was a great opportunity for Americans to buy something on peanuts. And when they saw that the trade deficit between China and America is increasing over the period of time, so America is getting like huge imports. According to one documentary I saw that they had say 38 billion of imports on one port, and they just had like say 2 billion of export to China. Now they want to send something more, so they want to balance out like 38 with, they want to increase the exports. But because of the currency exchange rate, the products that America is going to give back to China, they are becoming very expensive for the Chinese consumers. Like, say, the Nike shoe for say $100 would be very expensive for Chinese to purchase. Okay, so so these are the currency rates also affect a lot, and when the currency rates they're fluctuating, that is again very risky for the businesses to operate. Inflation rate, we know that the prices, the increase of prices, especially we have seen after Corona, lots of inflation has hit many economies around the world. So inflation rate also affects upon the labor, the production of the products. Diverse tax policies. What is your tax in your home country, and what is the tax of the foreign country? We have seen like recently the tariffs have been decreased from 40% to almost 4%. This is crazy. Initially, there used to be 40% tax on like imports in worldwide, and as it is gone to 4%. This is the reason, like if you are trying to buy something online on say Amazon, Alibaba, you don't know where are you sourcing it from. So probably you're getting it from Chinese factory right into your home with a minute difference in the prices. Okay, national culture also plays an important role is the value and attitudes shared by the individuals from a specific country that shape its behavior and their beliefs of what is important. So behavior like say the time. How do you value time? So in your country, do people come on time or do they come late? Okay, so how much they value the time, and then how much you value, if you're talking about the value, how much you give value to the relationship. Okay, so like in Japan, what they do is if they have they are already having a partnership with your competitors, the same supplier is not going to take your products for the supplies because that's how they do. They are very loyal with the partners. Similarly, how do you have value system for the employees and like you see that there's a famous saying in America which we call it a cup of tea is a cup of tea and business is business. So that tells you like they are not very into relationship, but they are more focused on the business terms. But in certain cultures, like in the Saudi culture, if you are having a cup of tea with someone, that means you are having a relationship with him. So if you're having a relationship, then you may go on like forward. So relationships are more important as compared to certain countries where they just very much focus on the business. So this national culture may have more influence on an organization than the organizational culture. So organizational culture is a subculture that is within the organization, but we are talking about a national culture that that makes the organization, and within the organization they may have different organization cultures. Okay, so again, going to the global business management, we understand there are lots of challenges. One is the openness associated with the globalization. So when you go to global environment, you understand that there is going to be international competition is going to come and play a role. Uh, Significant cultural differences, like you're trying to create Americanization everywhere, but we have to understand the differences of different cultures. We have already discussed the examples of McDonald's, the problems they faced when they went to India, because they could not understand the reason why they don't eat the uh, meat. So they introduced vegetarian burgers, but they failed to realize that the oil that they were using was from the extracts of the cow. Because of that, they faced litigation and they have to make an out of court settlement. It was just inability to understand the cultures. Okay, again, adjusting leadership styles and management approaches to host countries. So this is also very crucial. If we do not understand and follow the international laws, it can affect negatively on our business. I gave you the example of a Japanese company in which a manager asked his employees to come like 5 minutes early for the job. So after a year, they went into the court, and the court considered this 5 minutes coming early as an overtime, and the company had to pay in millions of dollars as a compensation to the employees. Okay, so that's within the culture. So imagine if you're doing it outside the culture. I remember in the UK, as I told you, a person was terminated, fired from a gas station, and the person who was fired, he went to the court, And in the court, there was an Asian owner of that business. So they asked him, why did you terminate it? Why did you fire him? He said, I ordered him to do, and he did not. He said, what did you do? He said, I ordered him. So the judge put him a penalty. He says, you are treating him like a slave. Did you order him? So this like again can be a limitation of his English language, or probably in their country they might be using these kind of words. But if you're using the same kind of words in other countries, that might result in a huge penalty. In this case, the person was asked to pay £10,000 of penalty. Yes, the risks are involved when we are going to internationally investment is in unstable countries can be risky, especially the political system. If a new government comes in, they might change the law, and then your whole investment can be drowned. And terrorism is again a great international phenomenon, and economic dependency. Like many businesses, they are dependent on each other, especially like the whole world is dependent on China. You go all over the world, you see Chinese products. So if we can understand like how it is contributing to the consumer's life in the whole world. And similarly, like American exports are like 70% plus to European countries, and then Europeans is like 70% plus export are to America. So that's how the world economies are interdependent on each other, and that makes us everybody important for the survival. Okay, Shiva, this is from the previous lecture. We could not finish it. Okay, Shiva, this is from the previous lecture. We could not finish it there. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask. Otherwise, we can go to today's topic. You please feel free to ask questions if you have any. Okay, I tried to capitalize upon today's session because today's session is online, so I will be making a recording of the session, and I want to cover this whole chapter so that it can be handy for you if you want to revise. Okay, so today we are going to start chapter 8, which is about organization structure and design. So how the organization structure is going to affect, we'll see some definition of organization structures. We'll see like how the machinistic and organic structures are different and common organizational designs. Okay, so organizing is basically arranging and structuring work to accomplish an organization's goals. So we have to make a systematic organization in which everything is like streamlined and there's no duplication of the works. I think it's the pyramids of Egypt, if I'm not wrong. I learned like there were like more than 100,000 employees working for more than 10 years. Okay, so 100,000 employees, how you work without 10 years? You need a good management. You need a good organization of the workers. You know, they must have divided into small departments and units and functions. You know, so organization structure, a formal arrangement of jobs within an organization. It will be talking about physical structures as well, and then we'll be talking about the structures from which the humans are being managed. So organization design can involve decisions about 6 key elements like work specialization. We'll be talking about departmentalization, chain of command, span of control, centralization versus decentralization, formalizations. So let's see. the purpose of organization or organizing. So it's like divides work to be done into specific jobs and departments. Why? Because if you'll be designing a special jobs and department, it will be easy for undertaking these assignments or the task. So assigns task and responsibility associated with the individual. So take the examples of your like Department of Management, or Department of Engineering. Why do make them like in departments? Why don't we get like the whole university as one department? There can be issues in it. So now linked with the specific job, we need to understand like there are different kinds of disciplines that are being taught in each departments. Then there are different responsibilities, there are expertise, courses, and how coordinate diverse organization tasks. And then we can make coordination between the departments as well. We'll make clusters of the jobs into units. Like within the engineering department, we will have specialization for civil engineering or mechanical engineering. Okay. Then establishes a relationship among individuals, group, and departments. So there are like managers, we link them. Like this can be production department, there can be a marketing department, and establishes formal line of authority, like who is reporting to whom, or one person is controlling how many people. Okay, that's very important. And allocates and deploys organization resources. As we already talked about, the organization, they have resources, they have machinery, they have budgets, cars, like printers, everything is a resource. So who will control these resources and how it should be given to the individual that require them. Okay, let's talk about the first one, work specialization. It is basically the degree to which a task in an organization are divided into separate jobs with each steps completed by different persons. So over specialization is very dangerous because it can result in human diseconomies. It can create boredom, it can create fatigue, it can create stress, poor quality, increased absenteeism, and higher turnover. So let me explain to you this concept. So specialization is like you make what is the job of one person. So when he completes this job, and the task can go to the next person and he does it. He puts a value in it. So this work which we are talking about here, it should not be so much repetitive, like you become a machine. You must have seen some workers, they are just in the packaging units, they're just repeatedly putting the stuff into one. And what makes them is like they become bored with the work. And they feel fatigued, and they feel stressed, and their quality of work also decreases. At the job floor, when I was as a manager in UK, we used to give this training to the labor because their job was very monotonous and very boring. So we'll see them mostly putting on the headphone in their ears and just picking the reels and putting on the. So machines, so sometimes they get so much lost that they can cut themselves, they can put their hand into the machine because they consider the job as very boring. And sometimes they can hit with the machine because they are putting their headphones on the ear. So that can be dangerous. So work specialization is good, but we should not have an like very specific work specialization so that there's no growth. For example, if there's a doctor, he is teaching a course. So if we give him like all 5 courses of the same subjects, and we give him like for every year, So what's going to happen? Like after 1 year, he is teaching the same course, his learning is zero, and then he is not updating himself, he is not learning what is happening latest in the field, and that's why it can create problems for him. Please bear me 1 second. Okay, so what specialization is important aspect, and then we different departmentalization. We can have by tribe, we can have functional departments, group jobs by functional performance. We can have processes like grouping jobs on the basis of the products or customer flows. We can have on the basis of products like grouping jobs by the product lines. We can make similar products on the same line of production. We can have jobs based on the customers, like grouping jobs by the type of the customers and their needs, and then geographical locations, grouping jobs on the basis of territory or geography in which you have your customers. This is an example in which we have functional jobs, functional departmentalization. We see we have a plant manager. Then under the plant manager, this one function is manager engineering. So all the engineering works are going to come under him. And then the accounts manager, we understand the accounts manager's functions are different as compared to engineering. Then the manufacturing manager, and then human resource management, that itself is a specialized department. And then purchasing manager, they are specialized in their department. So what are the plus points for this? Like efficiencies from putting together the similar specialties, people with the common skills, knowledge, and operation or orientation. So a person constantly working in a accounts department will understand the latest legal changes that has happened in the accounting department. Same as with the human source, they will know the latest laws. Engineers working in the same department, and it will also increase the coordination between the functional department. So all the engineers, you will find them going together to the cafeteria. They will have commonalities. They might be sharing the same kind of universities. So they will have an in-depth specialization. The problem with this is there is a poor communication across functional areas. So employees from this department, say manufacturing departments, they have little communication. Say manufacturing departments, they have little communication. So employees from, and because of this, they will not understand the constraint of the other departments. So they have poor communication. And then limited view of the organization goal. So these employees are just concerned of their own department, and they do not see the bigger picture of the organization. Geographical departmentalization, like say in the banking sectors, we have based on the sales directors in the western region, sales director on the southern regions, and sales director. Okay, so this is good. It's more effective and efficient handling of specific regional issues. For example, in certain areas, there are like weather conditions or some other issues like the customer needs and demands. So you can cater those things. It serves needs for the unique geographical market locations. Say there is an extreme hot weather or extreme cold weather, and you can also set targets for that area differently. For example, for the south region, you can give 100 million of the target to the sales department, and for eastern region, that's not the customers do not prefer these products or their needs are different, so you might give them 10 million of budget. The only problem is like the duplication of the functions. You'll have the same kind of departments here, like say marketing department, and here again you will need a marketing department. Again, you might need an accounts department here as well. And so there can be duplication of the departments. And the other thing is can feel isolated from the organizational area. Sometimes if you are working in a remote areas, even the sales director will feel isolated. You will see like all the others sales directors, especially with the areas where they can get good budgets, he or she will feel isolated. Okay, so another aspect is can be product departmentalization, in which you make departments on the basis of the products that you're manufacturing. For example, we have an example of the Bombardier, in which we have first say mass transit sector, in which we have mass transit division and Bombardier road tax. And then we can have a recreational and utility vehicle sector, and then we have retail product sector. So basically, in this example, we are talking about different kinds of products from the same company, and we are just dividing them differently. Okay, so it allows specialization in a particular product or service, and the managers can become experts in the industry in which they are working. They can be closer to the customers, okay, because they are working on their own product specialty. But again, the problem is again the duplication of the functions and limited view of the goals of the organization. Process departmentalization, in which you might make department on the basis of the processes. Like say we have an example of this plant superintendent, in which we have a sewing department where all the sewing work is done. We have a planning and milling department where all the planning milling is done. Assembly department manager where all the parts, say the cars, they are assembled here. Then lacquering and sanding department. Then there's a department where we have the finish department. The manager checks, and then we have inspection and finally, shipping out department. So this department is more efficient flow of work activities. You can see the all the say this is the cars there we are talking about. So they will go from one department to another department. And the negative thing is like it can only be used with certain types of products. We cannot use it for all kind of products. Okay, customer departments. This is again based on the basis of the customers and the nature of the customer. Like if you have a director of sales, we will see manager retail accounts, managers wholesales, and manager government accounts. We understand the retail account, the customers are like small basket shopper customers. They are individual. They are not big basket customer. They might buy the products in units. So take the example of the almarai. So an individual might go and get one box of almarai or one bottle of almarai. Okay, but as a wholesaler, like say take the example of Otham, Lulu, they will buy it like say in hundreds and thousands. Okay, so they are, we call them big basket customers. The individual customers pay upfront, they pay the payment and then take the products. The big basket might be the customers as they are having repute, so they might and the business trust them, so Almarais trust them, so they might pay you after 1 month based on like how many units they have purchased. So that's why the nature of the customer is different. And the government is like totally different. The way of payment is different. So mostly in the world, when the government they want to buy something, they put it in the newspaper. So that comes in the newspaper. So all these businesses they submit the quotation to them, and then they go through a proper quotation evaluation process, auction, and then they get the bid which is most economical, and then they ask them to install the products or services, whatever they are there, and then they make the payments. They might pay like 40% before and then 60% after the things have been installed. So the point which I'm trying to make over here is that different customers, they have different kinds of way of operating and doing business. That's why we need to make departments differently. So customer needs and problems can be met speciality, and the problem with this is duplication of the function and limited of the goals, which is again with the other departmental layout. Okay, so what is chain of command? Chain of command is that the continuous line of authority that extends from the upper level of an organization to a low level of the organization and clarifies who reports to whom. So in organization, we call it organogram. It tells us like who is reporting to whom. You will see this in almost all the organizations. There has to be a very clear organogram, and that tells us who reports to whom. Okay, so this person reports to this manager, and this manager is reporting to the CEO. So there has to be a clarity. If one person is kind of reporting to two different people, that creates problems because this is not going to be more effective and efficient. So this will create stress in the individual, and this is not going to be having a conflicted kind of job requirements. Okay, authority, like, it's the rights inherent in a managerial position to tell people what to do and to be expected from them. So we have to clearly have authority given to the managers. So we have to clearly have authority given to the managers, and then there's a limit to the authority. So a manager, they must understand what is the limit they can exercise their authority. And then the responsibility is the obligation of the expectations to perform. And like if we hire a manager, we expect what is his responsibility, or an employee. He has to come on time, he has to work with wholeheartedly, and the number of units he has to produce. Okay. Unity of command. That's the concept we were talking about, the concept that a person should have one boss and should not report only to that person. Here we just talked about this concept. A chain of command, it should not be convoluted, otherwise the the employee will be dissatisfied. So I was just linking it with the Islamic perspective. See, like unity of command. We as a human being are answerable to God Almighty, and we are not answerable to the angels or anyone else. So on the day of judgment, God Almighty is going to ask us, like, what did you do? Where did you spend your youth and everything? That is again a great concept of unity of command, that we are only answerable to God Almighty. Okay, so we'll have to see the span of control. Like the number of employees can be effectively and efficiently supervised by a manager. Like normally here you see a teacher will have like 40 students in the class. That's the system says. If you have more students, so 40 students, 42, it will say -2. There are 2 extra students in the class. So why we made this span of control? Why it is important? Because it can change with the on the basis of the skills and abilities of the manager. There can be some teachers, they can handle like 100 students. So it is the skill or the ability of the tutor or the doctor, or employees characteristics. Some people like to interact with others, so they won't mind extra individuals being assigned to them for responsibility, or it can be the characteristics of the work being done. Like today's session, we are conducting online, so it doesn't matter if we have like 100 students participating. So there's no problem with the, the space and there's no problem with handling the class. Similarity of the task can also make you easy to control a large number of span of control of the employee. Complexity of the task, obviously, if the task is complex, your subordinates are going to come back to you and ask you many questions. So we cannot go with high complexity is inversely proportional to the greater span of control. Physical proximity. Like in today's session, we are physically away from each other, but again, it is one of the characteristics of the lectures. We can do it online. Otherwise, if I had to teach you some skills which were hands-on skills, we would not be able to do it like this, you know. And then standardization of the tasks. If the tasks are standards, so it's easy for you to teach people, and then they will be just following. So you can have a big span of control. Sophistication of the organization information. Sometimes organization information is so specific, so they might not add one department with another one. Strength of the organization culture. If there's a high strength of the organization culture, people will be willing to work with each other, they will be helping each other. And the preferred style of the manager. If the manager likes to work with the people and he is liked by the employees and he's open for the questions, he's willing to help them, then they will go with the larger span of control. Otherwise, if a manager is very much focused on the work and doesn't like to talk or entertain with the people, so a larger span of control is not advisable. This is a typical example of a level of span of control. Imagine this is an organizational level. So there's a top CEO in the company, say that he has got 4 vice presidents, and then we have deputy vice presidents, and then say managers and deputy managers, and then the employees. So altogether we have like 4,096. So it's like we are adding 4 people in every layer. 4, and now these 4 people are answerable to these 4, and the 4 people are controlling. Imagine we change this 4 span of control to 8. So this CEO is controlling 8 employees, and then these 8 employees are controlling another 8 employees. So what we have achieved is we are able to minimize 2 layers. Okay, so that has helped us. So in this span of control, we have 4,696 employees, and we have 6 level, and the managers are 1,365. Here we have less managers, 585 managers for the 4,696 employees. So imagine how much we are getting saving. So employees who are at a managerial level, we know that their salaries are very high. But again, we have to think like it can go negative. If the nature of the job in the previous slide we talked about is complex and the tasks are different, so there is going to be more questions the employees are going to ask to the managers, and the quality of the work might go bad. Okay, we can have a organization structure in which we are having centralization versus decentralization. Centralization means the degree to which decision making is concentrated at the upper level. So organization in which top managers make all the decisions and the lower employees simply carry out those orders. So if there's more centralization, what will happen? Even for the small work, you are asking the top management. So you're dependent on their decisions. And there is another way which is called decentralization, in which organization in which decision making is pushed down to the manager who are closest to the action. So the managers are given the power to make decisions for themselves. So this can help employees. We also call it employee empowerment. They feel like they have a power, authority to make decisions, and this also creates motivation in them. And this decentralization, on one hand, creates empowerment. Another is like customers, employees' loyalty, and the organizational effectiveness. The top management can find enough time to concentrate on their work instead of just dealing with the petty issues, which are day-to-day issues. We have formalization. This is the degree to which jobs within the organization are standardized and the extent to which employees' behavior is guided by the rules and procedure. So if we have standardized kind of work, then we can make rules and procedure. So highly formalized jobs offer little discretion over what is to be done. So if everything is like decided and clear, so you do not need a proper interpretations like today's lecture. So we already know like how what is going to be the pattern, what is the time for the lecture. So nobody asked me questions on this. Low formalization means fewer constraints on how the employees do their work. In lower constraints, employees pick and choose their own way of doing the things. So this depends on like intellectual work. For example, in IT and other departments, you cannot pick and control the employees' behavior. Okay, contingency factor. In all the working we have contingencies. Contingency is basically a question that whatever we decide cannot be implemented the way we have decided. So we must have a structured contingency, and there can be a strategy and a structure. So there must be a question for the strategy, for the structure, strategy and the structure. So there must be a question for the strategy, for the structure. Achievement of strategic goal is facilitated by the chances in organization structure that accommodate and support the change. And we have to have a question that the structure provides a contingency factor for the strategy implementation. Similarly, with the size, as an organization grows larger, its structure tends to change from organic to machinistic. With increased specialization, departmentalization, centralization, and rules and regulation. So if you are working in a small company, people work and help each other informally. The work's tasks are assigned to each other informally. But if the company goes big, we make departments. We have an example of a Cadbury, which is a chocolate company. We know that, and there was run like a family business, but they went to the VCG and BCG make department centralization, and the employees become dissatisfied over the period of time. We must have a contingency for the technology as organizations adopt their structure to their technology, and as nowadays we can see lots of automation is done, so the technology is also shaping the organization structures. Woodward's classifies the firm based on the complexity of the technology. We can have organization where we see unit production, in which like, we measure the outcome on the basis of units. For small batches, you can have the example of the cars. We just count them on units. We can have a mass production. We can have large batches of outputs in the milk. We can have it a large, okay. And we can have a process production. It is an continuous process of output, like the plastic film or the clothes. Okay, so when we're going to need routine technology, when there's a machinistic organization, like everything is fixed, the processes and the products are fixed, and we need non-routine technology for organic organization, in which we have to change the design on the customer needs every now here and then. Okay, so we also have to have a contingency factor for the environmental uncertainty. You know, like external environment is you cannot control the external environment. Like today, we had environment was not good, so it was raining. So we have a contingency, like we can always go on online lectures. So machinistic organization structures tend to be most effective in stable and simple environment. But if the environment is changing, Then we will need organic organization structure. This is good for dynamic and complex environments. In traditional designs were simple structures, like where we had low departmentalization, we had wide span of control, we had centralized decision making, and authority was also centralized, and there were little formalization. Function structures were departmentalization by functions. They had like operations, like finance, marketing, human resource departments, production, research, and development. And in divisional structure, we had composed of separate business units or divisions with limited autonomy under the coordination and control of the parent corporation. Okay, what are the contemporary or latest organizational designs? We see team structures are being set up, especially in the projects. You can see the entire organization is made up of work groups or self-managed teams and empowered employees. We can see matrix and project structure, in which we have specialists from different function departments are assigned to work on projects led by the project manager. So matrix and project participants have two managers. See, this is an employee X, and he's reporting to one manager here, and he is also a part of a team, and he is also reporting to manager. These are the new kind of structures. You'll see this in, say, IT sectors. You'll see in the financial sectors. These kind of teams arrangement. So in project structure, employees work continuously on the projects, moving on to another project as one or each project is completed. So if the project is complete, the employee might be used into another project team, and there can be another manager to whom he might be reporting. Okay, so there are new concepts, which is like boundaryless organizations. This is a flexible, unstructured organization design that is intended to break down external barriers between organization and customers and suppliers. It removes internal horizontal boundaries. It eliminates the chain of command, so nobody is reporting to no one. It has limitless span of control, so everybody is responsible for the activities he or she is doing. It uses empowered teams rather than the department. So everybody is like empowered and they can make the decision better. It eliminates external boundaries. They use virtual networking and modular organization designs to get closer to the stakeholders. Let's take the example of the telegraph. Are we familiar with the telegraph? Telegraph. It has got only 30 employees or engineers working around the world, and its worth is 300 billion, estimated 300 billion US dollars. Okay, so all these employees are working from their home, from their own countries, and they are working in this kind of setup, which we can call a boundaryless organization. Okay, removing external barriers, we see nowadays virtual organizations. In an organization that consists of a small core full team of employees, and that hire temporarily specialists to work on the opportunity that arise. I remember like a British Council specialist to work on the opportunity that arise. I remember like a British Council for its IELTS exams. We are familiar with the IELTS. So they hire some experts to go, and what they do is basically they hire the IELTS tutors. Okay, I'm just going to finish it within like 4 or 5 minutes. This is the recording. You can always refer it back. So I've already taken the attendance. If somebody wants to leave, they can leave. If you have some questions, you can ask me at the end of the lecture. Network organizations, a small core organization that outsource its major business functions like manufacturing in order to concentrate on what they're doing. So there are many businesses nowadays that they get the manufacturing done from the underdeveloped countries like from or like say China, Taiwan, Bangladesh, and what they are focusing is on their brands. Modular companies are like a manufacturing organization that uses outside suppliers to provide product components for its final assembly operations. So probably take the examples of the laptops. So they can get final components and then they assemble and they sell it from their own brand names. Today's organization challenges are keeping employees connected. We know we are living in the virtual environment. So how would you motivate your customers? That's a big challenge. So the teams are widely dispersed. Take the example of the Telegraph, which they have 30 employees, and each employee is contributing around 100 billion. Imagine if they leave the company, how would you keep them motivated? Building learning organization, how would you learn and develop when your employees are dispersed? And then managing global structures like cultural implications, different cultures, they have different holidays and recreational activities. Okay, Shabab, this is the end of today's lecture. If you have any questions, you are welcome to ask, please. I can stop the